In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And welcome everyone to this episode of the Real Leaders Podcast. And good people, welcome to this episode of the Real Leaders Podcast, the special episode 200. That's 200 different people that have come on this show. And today we have on the founder of the Battery Tour and one of the 17 young United Nations leaders, A.Y. Young. A.Y., my man, how you doing?
Yeah, dude, congrats. Honestly, monumental 200, dude. That's what's up.
That's what's crazy. Up, man. That's what's up. You snubbed somebody else. We're going to have an interview on Friday, and you came in last night, snubbed somebody else, so you got the 200th episode. Congratulations.
History.
That's right. It's a special day. Now, hey, you're telling me before the show, I mean, you're up at your 4 a.m., you're grinding. What's like an average work day, if you call it work for you? Like what do you do during the day?
Man, I mean, now that it's COVID, I'm not out here doing these, 8 to 10 hour shows. I mean, before COVID, I did, a year ago, I did 230 concerts powered by renewable energy. So my time was spent, traveling America, sleeping in my car, building the box that you see behind me and trying to get one to someone who lacked access to energy. It's been weird, but right now it's a whole lot of Zoom calls and podcasts. I became a young leader recently. It's been crazy, man.
Are you as exhausted as I am about with all these
videos? Know, right? I mean, I'm kind of tired, but also not really, though. I mean, honestly, dude, you have to understand, like, to get where I'm at, it took a decade. Right. People watch my story and they're like, oh, shoot, he powered over 800 concerts. It's like, for me, doing the inauguration for Biden, to me, is like, finally, the world is, is getting plugged in, and now it's, for me, I'm supercharged. I'm like, okay, now we're here,
So you're all about the energy then. You're just bringing the energy day by day. I mean, it's hard for a guy like you to be, out of battery, like out of energy. Like it's just
right. I mean, I get tired, but I do. Come on, man. I mean, it's like, look what I'm doing, bro. First of all, like I say this all the time, it's like change, starts with passion. And at the end of the day, and I would love to know more about what you care about, like what you're passionate about. But if, bro, if we're doing what we love to do every day, right, you can do that,
So what do you love to do then? Like, and how'd you discover what you love to do?
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, it's crazy, bro. Like if you look back, like your surroundings, your parents kind of maybe help shape who you were. And so I now that I'm getting older, I like look back and realize, like, I watched my dad like change, my neighborhood block by block. He built the Ivanhoe neighborhood, which is a nonprofit. I watched him kick, drug houses off the block and neighborhood cleanups. And I watched him create change, and for me, it didn't take too long for me to realize, okay, I love music, but how can I use music, my body, what I believe in, whatever, to make change and to help people, and for me, that kind of thinking of, okay, I'm gonna take my passion and do that every day, to change the world, to help someone, or to do one thing, to take one action. When I discovered that, that's what I've been doing. Using my passion to help people.
Well, I mean, who doesn't want to do that, right? And here's the thing that, is so fascinating is that there's so many people that probably had the same idea you did, except for you went out and you did something about it. Like, that takes a whole different type of mindset to actually physically take the leap. Where, like, walk our audience, through your journey about, I knew you were an Eagle Scout in high school. So, like, kind of take it from that point to kind of where you are now.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm a proud Eagle Scout. I just got picked too. It's me and this dude named Bear Grylls. If you know who that is?
Yeah,
he's
I think
crazy. We're now the only two, Scout influencers, and they're about to roll me out. So
nice.
That's like a whole dude. Yeah, I know. It's always a dream to be like, I'm gonna be on a freaking cover of Boy's Life, and now I am soon, I hope. Right, but yeah, Boy Scouts is a whole nother. But I'll say this, like, I think my story really started. Yeah, it was right after I got Eagle, and really what it was, I got on this TV show called The X Factor. Have you ever? It's like American Idol.
Of course.
Yeah, right. Okay, so yeah, and I got like 4 yeses. The celebrity judges were like L.A. Reid, Britney Spears, like by the way, bless Britney Spears' heart because she's been through a lot
Mm.
recently.
Oh,
Holy,
really?
I don't know if you've seen that
No,
stuff,
I
dude.
haven't.
Have you? Check
No.
it out. Yeah, it's crazy because like this
What's going on?
documentary about, yeah, it's a documentary out. It went viral. Something about like what's been going on with like her life and kind of being kind of owned or controlled kind of thing,
Mm.
you know. And it's nuts because now I look back on 2012 and remember some of the stuff she was going through, and now it's like public, you know. Even Justin
Mm.
Timberlake came out and was like, "Whoa, I'm so sorry, Britney. Didn't know you were dealing with this." So I'll
Oof.
just let you check that out. But anyway, Britney Spears, Ellie Reed, you know, Demi Lovato, Simon Cowell. Those are my like mentors, and I learned a lot about like the music business. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a
Mm.
difference. And I got off the show, and you know, I would try to open up for like Wiz Khalifa or Shaggy. You know, they would come to town. You know, big artists. You know what I'm saying? And I would get told like one of the favorite things people would say is they'd be like, "Well, how many tickets has your last tour sold out?" You
Right.
know, and I'm like, "None, bro. I just started performing." You know, or they'd be like, "Well, how many followers do you have?" You know, when
Mhm.
I would try to open up for once, I was like,
Sure.
"Man, screw this, dude!" Like, I'm gonna be like Ed Sheeran. I'm gonna be like Andy Grammer. Like, you know, these guys are Bruno Mars. They're doing shows every day. You know, like why can't I do what they're doing? So I was like, okay, well, how do I do it? How do I freaking power a concert anywhere? You know, and of course I didn't want to destroy the world, and the diesel generator is really loud. So I obsessed over like energy, right? And bro, this is when I realized something that I say all the time is energy is the base resource. Like we need energy in food, right? We eat, right? Energy. And then I started obsessing. I was like, oh shoot, you know, if I store enough energy, I can power a concert.
Mm.
Wait, if I store enough energy, I could power anything,
Mm.
right? And that was like my first eureka moment. And so I started storing energy in
Mm.
batteries, and I started doing these 8 to like 10 hour shows, and that was the beginning.
Mm. Have you heard the company Portable Electric by chance?
Nah, they sound
Okay.
like I should talk to him though, bro.
Yeah, no, yeah, Mark Ray, one of the first interviews I did was actually with a company, but they would build solar powered generators for like movie
Oh yeah,
production. But this is like
yeah,
full blown. I mean, these are big time concerts. I mean, there's a lot of pressure and risk to make a business decision and say, hey, we're going to go with your, electric, powered, solar powered, renewable powered, services. What type of mechanisms are you powering though? Are you powering the
yeah,
base, the
yeah.
whole electronic system? What are you doing?
Everything, yeah, everything. So for me, I mean, and here's the thing that you have to understand, like with
Yeah.
the battery tour, you know, like this stuff progressed over time. Like it wasn't even called the battery tour in the beginning. You know, like I
Mm.
said, I started, using battery. There was a time I'm performing. Yo, I'm AY. It's my song. Say, hey, I look back and I see battery. I'm like, and this is the battery tour.
Battery.
Like that's
Really? That's how it is?
And then people were like, "Oh my gosh, bro, here's $5, dude." They like put it in the tip jar. Here's $10. We love you
Oh.
doing Garth Brooks, you know, because I would do like every Garth Brooks, Michael Jackson. You know, I'm doing all this stuff, my own originals. You know, and then they'd be like, "Oh man, we're your outlet. We powered the tour."
Uh,
And I was like, "Oh!" And that's when my other eureka moment. I was like, "Oh shoot, you're right. She's an outlet. He's an outlet. Everyone's an outlet for
mm,
change, right? And plugged into each other on the local community, nationally, we can do anything, right?
mm,
That's how like the brand was formed. And so, you know, when I started taking the tip money on this mission of okay, well, if music's a universal language and everyone's an outlet, let me go get them plugged in. Only
mm,
then I discovered that over 1 billion people lacked access to energy because I would travel America and there's like towns like in Texas that are struggling now, right? That didn't have power. Or in the
mm,
US, there's places that don't have freaking internet. Dude, it's crazy. Like, I don't know if you know that, but there's over 1 billion people overall in the world. So that's when I built this and I call it the outlet. And if you're on the podcast, there's no way you can see what the heck I'm doing, but that's what it is, right? So I would store a battery in here and then, you know, obviously solar, right, would, store energy in the battery. And I had actually built that for mobile first developing nations,
mm.
you know, and basically I don't know if you know this, but like that's like Haiti, Honduras, a lot of places, they all have a cell phone,
Yes.
and this is how they pay for their food, bro, right? So if they don't have energy, they can't eat, you know. And there's a lot of problems. People listening probably like, oh wait, I've heard about that, or like they have to walk miles for water. Yes, dude, like 5 6 miles to maybe charge their phone to then buy food. So the box I made, the outlet, I made that. It was designed for like mobile first. It wasn't designed for concerts. I use it out of application, to power a concert. But I'm here to prove that anything's possible,
Mm.
right? And my thought was always, man, one day battery tools are gonna be powered by Tesla. I'm gonna be working with Elon Musk and scale that out, right? So what's possible is you can power 800 concerts or more by renewable energy, because I
Mm.
did it, right? And so that's what I've kind of been doing, is like, hey man, it's possible, right, to do that.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. It's very inspiring too. I mean, now I want to make sure I'm on the same page as you. You said you're living in the van powering these concerts and you went to 800 different places. And while you were doing that, you saw the energy grid wasn't as sufficient as you thought.
Yeah. I mean, it started out, like I said, in my hometown. I got off that TV show, then I discovered the name Battery Tour, right, by just rapping and
Just
singing,
random.
right? And then what struck me though is when this people were saying, we're your outlets and we power the tour, and
Right.
they were literally powering the tours and keeping me alive, keeping the tour powered up. And I was like, shoot, well, everyone's an outlet, and that's how the logo came. Like if you're looking at my shirt, you see an outlet, and we have kids and families and people all over the world. They send me a picture of an outlet and they say, hey, I'm plugged in.
Mm.
So in that thinking, I go, oh my God, right, bro, we're already in every home in America.
Right.
We're already the biggest brand since Nike. So I got to go use music, which is a universal language,
Right.
and go get everyone plugged in.
Mm.
So that's the mission I've been on. That's why I was doing 230 shows a year, around America. Now again, like I said, and this, as an entrepreneur, as a innovator, things iterate. First it was just doing concerts and getting people plugged into my music. I wanted
Mm.
people to hear my music. When I found out all these, like, I'm driving through certain places in America and these people ain't got energy, I'm like, what the heck? Y'all don't have energy, but I got energy to do a concert? And then you start Googling stuff and you're like, wait, 1 billion people? Like, I live in America. I'm used to like going to McDonald's down the street and I can just get some water. Like,
Mm.
these people don't have, bro, imagine just like, oh yeah, I got to get water. So I have to walk 7 miles. And I hope I don't drop it on the way back home, because that's crazy. So I was like, well, shoot, man, if everyone's an outlet, and I mean, music is my passion. I love music. Then how do I use it to like get the world plugged in? It was really simple to me. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to build something. And I built that. And then I was like, I can take one action, because I realized that, what? Everyone can make a difference.
Mm.
Everybody can do one thing. It could be something small. I mean, yeah, okay, energy efficiency. Let me turn off the light. Or, I'm gonna carpool and do something sustainable and not drive my car and go with my friends. There's something you can do. So for me, that concept came from me saying, okay, I can do a concert every day. I'm doing these 10-hour shows. So I'm just gonna, raise as much money as I can each concert until, I make, raise enough to make one of these boxes, and I'm gonna send it to one person or one village, what I'm saying, that needs access to energy, until a freaking billion get plugged in. That's what I've been doing.
Well, it's absolutely beautiful, and it puts a smile on your face. And speaking of languages that are universal, a smile is universal. And I feel like a lot of people, understand
Yeah.
the same thing, and it's just like hearing that, that you're plugging in the world and, they are the outlets for that. It just taps into so many different people's souls. And so when I hear like this inspiring story, I really want you to break down that box that you got behind you. And for people just listening to this on the audio, there's a box right behind AY, and it's got a solar panel on it. It almost looks like a hardware for a computer desktop. They just like
Yeah.
reshaped the solar panel, and then you could take off a couple wires inside. Take us behind the conception of that box over there and how it's grown in iterations, like you mentioned.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and this is a prototype. Again, if you
Mm.
notice who I am as a person, it's always been laying the foundation,
Mhm.
right? So and everything to me is collaboration. I think that's the issue with the world. I think collaboration is key. Like, I mean, take COVID for example, right? It's like seems like to me, I'm just guessing. Seems like we had like half the people doing one thing, and then we had like another half doing like a different thing, and so we weren't really together in how we did it as a world, as a state, as a country,
Mm,
and so it wasn't as effective. And so when I look at the world, I just see a lot of silos. Even with sustainability, bro, it's like colleges are doing good stuff. McDonald's and Walmart have a sustainability program. Everybody's talking about diversity and inclusion and being, inequal. But it seems like everyone's doing it, in silos. Like, bro, when I
mm,
got into the UN, into the United Nations, the Young Leader Program hadn't spoke to UNICEF in a year.
really?
What? How are you guys supposed to be doing the same thing if you're in the cubicle all the way on the 10th floor? Like how, so for me, I'm like, crap, man, I gotta bring people together. So I scale that all back to say, when you talk about the technology, for yes, it starts with steps. So I mean, this is not that hard. It's not that complicated. Actually, energy is a lot simpler than some people think. I mean,
Mm,
essentially, I'm storing energy. But this is another reason why I said I call it battery tour, right? Because I think energy storage is one of the biggest problems we're facing
sure.
as a world. We should be storing energy, bro,
Mm,
all the time, and using it and sharing it, right? So I mean, this just enables me to simply, take that solar energy and store it into a battery,
mm.
right? That simple. Convert from DC to AC, be able to plug right in. And it's made for a cell phone, not for a concert. Do I use them for concerts? Yes. Do I want to work with the best battery people in the world, or Elon Musk or something, and scale it out and make something made for concerts? Heck yes, bro. What the heck? Justin Bieber's
And
next
nothing's stopping
tour
you.
should be right. I mean, that's where we're on right now, bro. That's where we're heading toward, bro.
I love it. No, I absolutely love it. Just like the concept in music and in life in general, coming together. Some of the top hit songs of all time, right? Beatles, Come Together, One Love, Come Together, Be All Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
music has a way in just tapping into so many different souls and can really impact change on so many different levels. So when it comes to energy, it's a very complex issue. We actually had someone on this morning that was a consultant for renewable energy. And
Awesome.
so, it's when you talk about storage, right, of solar or any renewable energy, the problem with it is like weight, distribution, shipping, scalability. So, like when you start
Totally.
talking about scalability, like what does scalability look like to you, and like how would you define that?
Huh? Well,
Everyone has their own definition.
scalability. Well, first of all, random question. I
Yeah,
gotta hear what your passion is, bro. What are you passionate about? What do you freaking care about? Because, bro, that's what I'm trying. Because that's the whole question. And anybody who's listening, that's like when I do anything, I want to know, like, what are people passionate about? Because we should be doing that every day. You
yeah.
should answer that, then I'll answer your question.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Huh?
Yeah, my purpose, I like to think, is to have meaningful conversations that transform lives. So the more conversations I can have like this with my family members, with friends, with random people on the street, that's what kind of gets me
Yeah.
going. That's my passion, and it always really has been. I just didn't really know it until really a couple of years ago. So I've been doing all these interviews. Started out doing interviews with social entrepreneurs like
Oh,
before I even knew
snap.
anything. Yeah, just road tripping, kind of like yourself. So kind of a similar contrast there. But it's just I'll talk to anybody who's making change, and I just want to pick your brain and hopefully help you out. Or if I'm not helping you out, hopefully others are listening to this and
See
find
how
something.
we grow just from conversation and like the way
Yes,
that can almost mentor
absolutely
us. That's
powerful.
nuts, right?
Yeah, powerful. That's why we do
Well,
it, man.
see,
That's why we do it.
right? And I want to say that has changed. It's hard to measure social impact, but also, so you and me are the same. We're similar. I'm, how I
You
use
have more
music.
drip.
Well, I mean, there's always different ways, but you're an outlet because you're finding a way. Even if it might just be two people or three, or maybe there's 100 people listening. So now you're bringing all these people into a conversation that's requiring communication, and that's really what the world needs more of. Because the more you communicate, the more you start realizing, wow, we're kind of all the same. Like, I mean, his skin color is different. His parents were rich and mine were poor, or I grew up in this place and he grew up here. But man, we're kind of just human.
Yeah,
That's powerful. And that's definitely what I'm trying to do with Project 17. Like now being a young leader, I'll tell you all about Project 17 and what I'm
Yeah.
doing. But that is the very premise of what Battery Tour is and being an outlet. It's really getting the world plugged in.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that really like irritates me is, I see people like you, just how much energy is just glowing out of you. And I see a lot of people just, working meaningless jobs or, really frustrated with like where they are.
Yeah,
And
man.
that inception point for me is like something that I'm trying to change too. How do you identify what's important to you and how do you pursue something that aligns with that? And so I love having people on like,
That's such a good question.
yeah. So, I mean, maybe walk us through like what it's like. Are you working harder because you care about this? What else would you be doing other than what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, every entrepreneur is going to give you, I feel like, the same answer, like like
Right.
I would never be doing, but the hard answer, the hard question to answer, because I know guys that are making six figures and aren't happy with their day to day life or their
Right.
job, right? You know, it's a tough question to say, like how can I be living my passion every day? I mean, I know that I was blessed, and I mean, I was homeschooled, early. Maybe that affected some things. I was a Boy Scout. I tried stuff. I
Mm,
jumped.
mm,
I jumped. I tell people all the time, like, jump. Like Steve Harvey said, sometimes you just have to try. And you don't always have the right direction. Like, it seems like people will look at me sometimes like, well, how did you go on tour with T-Pain, or how did you open up for Shaggy? Because I did. I ended up doing a 3-city tour with Shaggy. How? I mean, you could be, because I put in the work, I put in the time, I put in the 10,000 hours. Because yeah, I didn't always know what I was doing, but I took an action every day.
mm.
Rome wasn't built in a year. It's interesting. And I'm in this position where I did some social media. I tried to do this. I did that. You
Sure.
sometimes just trying and jumping can get you in the right direction. I think that some people are so scared to just try
Mm,
or to fail that they never start the engine. It's nuts.
right.
Maybe sometimes you gotta just turn the key and
Right.
drive in any direction.
Well, it's
Yeah.
it's the truth. It's the truth, and I'm curious to know how you think your upbringing or living by yourself, you know, molded you into the person you are today. Because, sometimes, we're really social creatures. So we'll mimic other things that people are doing. The common norm seems to be,
Totally.
school, job, that will support you
Totally.
enough,
Oh,
grow,
I hate that.
sail into the sunset when you retire. So like, what did being alone to you maybe do for your decision making and help you understand who you are and overcoming fear and all that
I
good stuff?
mean, being alone is huge. People are too
It's
distracted.
not
They
easy.
spend too much. Right? It's not easy, but it's also necessary. Like for one, I think there's a lot of ways to answer that question. First of all, I was homeschooled. I never quite fit in. I was a Boy Scout. I think that'll help me because I was able to sometimes be alone. Even though I wanted the hot girl to hang out with, I chose to work on my craft, and that did carry over as I got older. And then I started tasting success and like diving into it in a sense of like I was a starter on the football team, so basketball team I'm playing, which I got a college scholarship to go D1. So I was the guy that would go to the gym and shoot 500 shots in the morning and
Mm,
500 shots in the evening, right? But I believed in that 10,000 hours to be great. So you can spend 10,000 hours on dribbling, but if you haven't done it on shooting, you got another 10,000. So how in the world can I spend Friday and Saturday with Sue and then Sunday with my boy Jim and just play video games? I used to love video games, but I put them down. Not that I don't like them, but because I don't have the time and the bandwidth, right, to spend 8 hours there and here. So a lot of it's allocation of time. Some people are too afraid to be alone, to be single for a month. Like if you haven't been single for a month or two, just to spend some time with, if you have to go from Debbie to Sarah next week, 7 days in between, you know, what are you distracting yourself from? We're too focused on not going inward,
right.
right? And that is an issue that is halting people's success.
Mm.
And yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, It's powerful. It's really powerful. I mean, R.I.P. Debbie. Sorry about that one. And
Throwing names out here one
yeah,
time,
no,
but
I
a
know.
good time, you
But
know.
yeah, you're right. Success is an inside job, right? I mean, we hear it all the time, but what does that look like on the outside, right? Like easier said than done. And I think about what you had just said is yes, elimination. I've got to eliminate some things that aren't in my why, aren't in what I like to do, because I only have a finite amount of time, in my life. But I think what also is so scary is starting over again at no matter what age you are. So like when you were putting in all of the those hours in the gym, and I get it, I played sports my whole life, and then you got to make that change to become something else. Oh, I'm gonna dive into music now. Like, what gave you maybe that? Was it because the wins you had, you knew it's success, you said you could taste it? What gave you that
Yeah.
confidence to make that jump, as you say?
Honestly, I don't. Honestly, I look back and say, man, I was freaking crazy. I see why my parents were pissed because I got this college scholarship. I could go overseas, and then like for me, it took one moment. I was playing basketball, and I looked, and I was looking at Kobe Bryant, my favorite player, looking at all these guys, and I was like,
Mm,
man, you know. And I remember I performed one time. I performed one time, and the impact I felt from the music was bigger than what I thought I could provide playing basketball. And the reason why is because I was like, I'm in the gym 12 hours a day.
mm,
And if I go pro, I'm going to have to be in the gym 12 hours a day. That
mm,
doesn't leave much time for me to save the world or like help change lives. And so I know that there's ball players that do great stuff. And I'm not saying you can't be a ball player and make a positive change outside of the arena. But I saw that music did it faster and was like a quicker way. And
mm,
so for me, it was an overnight decision that flipped out my parents. They're like, "What the heck? Like you're tossing
mm,
everything away to do music, and there's no money in it," which was crazy. But that goes back to your why, but like you said, believing in yourself, like all these different things. And then ultimately, I started to learn certain stuff. Right, like I'd be in college and I would see that this girl didn't even graduate, but she's dating Jim, and Jim's dad owns the company, and so she just gets the position because she knows Jim and his dad. That had nothing to do with 4 years at the office. I started noticing stuff like, oh well, this guy right here, his dad owns Sporting
relationships.
KC,
Yeah.
right? And I started saying, oh well, I almost think success is knowing who you need to know. Maybe I just need to know the right people.
Mm,
Whether I'm dating this girl and her dad's filthy rich, or I know this person, my cousin knows that person, now I have a position. Maybe it's not, everything doesn't have to do with the degree or I start learning things that you learn in life, right? And I go, well,
mm,
wow, right? Maybe this is not, where can I allocate my time where I maximize, my passion and what I'm trying to do. And so I got meticulous with the days, and then that got meticulous with the hours, and then
mm,
that got so meticulous to the minutes where I don't even waste minutes. Like, but sometimes you'll get, I got so obsessed in like allocation of time and making sure I'm in the right circles and doing the right things. And I'm a big fan of being around and doing what's conducive to your dreams.
mm,
It's so, when I'm sitting in a circle and if everyone's doing a drug or something, is that conducive to my dreams? Well, no, then
mm,
I'm not going to be in that, right? So you start when you start making conscious decisions and you say, well, there's no need to just hang out with this person for no reason. Or at least you can start getting really critical with why. You start getting real with yourself, or well, I'm here because she's attractive and I just want a night. Or
mm,
I'm here because you know what, I actually want to drink alcohol tonight. And so
mm,
that's the reason why I'm here. And so you can be real with the reason that you're there because you're so selective with, the things that you choose to do that are conducive to, your dreams and your passions. And so, it takes steps in growth. And again, it comes from within. And I love what you said about knowing what your why is.
Well, I think self-assurance is a big part of kind of what you were saying, like being okay with the current results. But I mean, I'd be naive to think, sometimes there's got to be some times or moments during your career, you're putting in all these hours, you're not getting the gigs you want, you might not be getting the connections you want. I
Too
mean,
many.
walk us through really what that
Woo.
struggle is like and how you have
Yeah,
overcome
man. I mean, bro, 2 years ago, I had the biggest struggle of my life. I would say, because I had this partner and we went to LA. I would call him a partner. Battery Tour has a lot of artists that perform, right? He was a guy that was sticking around a lot. And so we kind of got really close. He's super talented. His name is Christian Robinson. We got to LA. I've been trying to shoot this documentary for Netflix. And then so I brought him into the meetings with Netflix. He met the people. They had an offer on the table for like some ridiculous amount of money. Then there was some investor that wanted to give all this money to Battery Tour. And I told him about all this stuff. What happened was, and I'll just let you know, what ended up happening was this performer ended up stealing all the Battery Tour gear, going to Netflix and saying, like, presenting himself as Battery Tour essentially, and tried to secure the contract. And then went to the investor and tried to say, forget AY, forget Battery Tour. Notice I've been having the Battery Tour for 6 years. I own the company. But he still pulled this and tried to have her give him like $250,000. It was crazy, right? But, and all that being said, it was the first time in my life since I, started that I couldn't do a concert every day, which was how I made my money, which is how I lived. I was done, dude. Like, I was thinking suicide. Like, I was thinking, like, my life's over. Like, this is it. I can't perform. I have no job. I lost everything.
Right.
And I think the only thing that dug me out of it was like some picture that some outlet sent me saying, "We're your outlets. We love the tour." And they like were wearing the shirt. And I remember that like rejuvenated me. And I remember like it was like the worst week of my life, thinking suicide. And I just remember saying, like, no, like I'm making an impact, even though it's like one person at a time, and like I can do this. And then something shifted, and I plugged in. I looked into the entrepreneurial resources of my city, which was different than what I had been doing. I had been just doing performances and doing shows and connecting with artists and creative. And I just switched, and somehow my light bulb went off. I applied for the Clean Tech Open. I applied for a couple of like community grants in the entrepreneurship. I went through the fast track tech venture course and graduated. Created a whole new network that's the entrepreneur network. Startups and all that. Got involved with Techstars and ended up not winning, but being behind a company that won, and was like shadowing them in the same office as that, and learned all about what it means to be an entrepreneur and the ups and downs, and rebuilt. I got a $6,000 grant 3 weeks after I was thinking about committing suicide. Like the money came a little bit later, but was awarded the grant and was able to buy back all the batteries and all the gear that was stolen by that ex-dancer.
Crazy. And I really appreciate you sharing that story. I mean, I know it's not easy. I mean, that's just something that's like the entrepreneur's worst nightmare, right? Someone taking your idea that you put all that time and effort
taking your idea, taking your network, and then taking everything that you believed, right? Like made it be. Like, even as an artist, like, well, without my gear, how can I perform? And I learned something that I've never been able to articulate, is that the gear didn't make me. Heck, none of that, even the network of knowing those couple people didn't make it happen. It came from within. It was my energy. One thing that Christian, or I'm not going to say his name, almost did. One thing that this guy could never take, though, is the talent, is the 10,000 hours of dancing and singing, is the fact that I can hop on a keyboard, even if he stole all my music, right, and said it was his. I can go back and write another song. They can't take that away from me. Right? Because you worked for it. And so you can always reinvent. You can always launch a new, right? And it was something that I learned there, because then it was like I became detached from the gear as much, where it's like, hey, if that, and I think that's how some big company guys think. When I start looking at these guys, they go, oh, well, if they lose that business, they make another one. Why? Because that guy's special. And when you start reading books, you look at Simon Sinek and Ty Lopez and Gary V, you start hearing, it's funny, in the investor world, you'll hear VC say, well, yeah, the company's cool, but what we invest in is the founders. What? So you're telling me I can have this highly scalable business and all this stuff, and here's this paper, and it's going to do this and make this money by year 5 and 10x return, but what you really, really invest in is the founder?
The people.
The people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's the original source of energy, right? You know, and that's the most important thing. And so many investors have come on and said that, you know, we invest in leaders. You know, that's what makes the business run. And if you were to take that out, what would that do to the company? What is a real leader? How do you sustain a company in the long term? I mean, all these different things. You know, you want to invest in the long term. A lot of VCs are probably short term thinking. I'm sure everyone's different. They have their investment strategies, but that's a
There's so
really
much,
good example of, you know,
right?
that entrepreneurial path, you know, of someone having that happen and rebounding and having to find, you know, the power, the energy, if you will, in them and having to turn it into something else. So where are you now? What are you doing? I heard you mention Joe Biden. I hear you mention you're one of 17 young United Nations leaders. I mean, how'd you get to this point
It's
where
insane,
you're
right?
the outlet, you're the plug? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, from 2 years ago having nothing, but years before that had everything. It's this crazy journey, right? And you know all about this, right? I mean, started doing the tour again. It took another route. At that time, 2 years ago, I built a nonprofit officially, right? This is when I was doing so much philanthropic work. DIY, powered by the people. I wasn't backed by a corporation. Wasn't getting money from a Nike or a Duracell. It's nuts. The real turning point was like a year ago. I went to this thing called Climate Week because I remember I was doing some shows in the Midwest, and like people started saying stuff like, "Well, you're a renewable artist." I was like, "What?" Or they would say stuff like, "Well, hey, you're a sustainable artist." And I didn't know what the heck that was. I've been doing this thing, getting the
Right.
world
All
plugged in,
natural.
traveling. Right? Isn't that nuts? And so I went to this thing called Climate Week in New York, and I met this dude named Al Gore, and I like shook his hand. He was saying good stuff. I was like, bro, you're saying good stuff, bro. And then I looked behind him, bro, and because he has this huge stage, it was massive. And I was like, dude, like you should be powered by battery tour tomorrow, because like he was talking about saving the world technically while destroying it.
What are you
Because
doing?
it's
What are you doing?
right. If you think about it, and then that's
How
my
are you
mind's like, oh,
hypocrite?
right, bro. I was in a no offense way. Like I mean, I love everybody. I love Greta Thunberg. But I looked at Greta and she came to the U.S. on a boat and everybody went crazy. And then I looked behind her and there was a diesel generator powering her microphone. And I was just like, holy crap! Like, why is Justin Bieber's next tour not powered by battery tour?
Mm,
And that was another like eureka moment for me, because I started powering speeches and panels from organizations that say they care about the ocean or the environment. Like, hey, if you're going to talk about it, don't destroy the world while saying what you're saying. And next thing I know, I'm in the UN. The United Nations was, the circle, thing, the big thing everybody talks about, and I was dancing it, and I was able to showcase the battery tour to a couple of world leaders. I met this dude named Paul Hawken, who's like one of the biggest environmentalists in the world. He wrote a book called Project Drawdown. I remember he told me he nominated me. I was like, whatever. I looked it up. It was like 18,000 nominations, 100 and something countries. I was like, nah, bro, I never win anything. Peace out. Next thing I know, I got the call. They said I was a young leader, and boom,
let's
now
go.
Project 17.
That's huge, man. That's a crazy story. It's just crazy to think about, like, kind of just. But here's the thing: is like I will say this is about a lot of these social entrepreneurs. I mean, the people are just attracted to the work that they do, and they see someone like this, Alice, and it's like, gosh, I wish I could do that, but instead, I'm going to put them on. I'm going to help them out in any way I can because I believe in them. Similar to like an investor. It's just I don't
You're
know.
blessed,
It's
bro.
just
You're
kind of
right.
interesting to think about.
It's a social investor. You're right. Because I look at Paul Hawken, I'm like, yeah. He didn't have to help me, bro. I mean, the dude's fine,
Yeah.
But he was like, he did. It's just crazy.
And so, AY, you also have a son, do you not?
Yeah, man, I got a little guy. I never talk about my little guy, but yeah, his name's Casper, man. I mean, he's another reason why we gotta say this, make sure this planet is left over, and functional for the next set of kids, man, like us.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, is he a source of inspiration as well? I mean, because a lot of people come on the show, they're like, I want to leave this world better than I found it for my kids and their kids.
Totally, yeah. I mean, of course, he's totally inspiration. He's an inspiration musically. That he thinks I'm a freaking superhero, but like, I mean, Casper is the best, man. Like, everything and everyone and Casper, all my family, everything inspires me, bro. Like I make songs in my mind, every hour on the hour. Like something's wrong with me, dude.
Mm,
I, but I don't know, man. I was created interest, like the way it was formed, or the way I've developed, or whatever's happened, has put me where I can attempt this crazy, audacious project, you know, that I'm attempting, man. I mean, you asked about the inauguration. It's like, you know, I went public with the idea of Project 17. At the time, it was aspirational. Now it's completely concrete. And, I don't know if you know what the 17 SDGs are, the
yes,
yes. So that's why I'm one of the 17 young leaders. And so, I'm doing three different kind of phases, but I'm in phase one. I went public about that. And the next thing I know, I was doing the inauguration. But I'm doing like maybe the world's first, if you could call it, sustainable album. One song for each of the SDGs, right? In collaboration with, one of Earth's, biggest artists on each record. So it's kind of like Michael Jackson's "We Are the World," and it's an impact driven project. Next year we're going to do a tour. We're going to bring that music to the people in the U.S. first, and because I'm the young leader of the U.S., so we're going to do a sustainable concert, battery tour,
of
scaled
course,
up.
right.
And then there's a lot more involved in it, but I'm blessed to like be able to do these legacy projects that will leave behind, making the cities a better place, and really be able to educate, kids like my son Casper and this generation. We're rolling out the battery tour like Project 17 in schools. And what kids are doing is, looking at me as an example. Casper thinks I'm a superhero, but no. But I am an example in the sense that I took my passion, I looked at those goals: no poverty, everyone having access to energy, reduced inequality, right, peace, and took an action toward the goals. And so I just love the fact that this young generation is fearless enough to not just talk about it, but to do something. And so that's what I'm here, man. Is just to empower the youth of the world. Huh?
And
Huh?
I think it's great, and I think about normal companies. It's like, why can't we create jobs that people can, dive into their purpose, be in that flow state? And I think that's what a lot of adults tend to lose as they get older, is that creative aspect of that. Would you mind like
On.
explaining to people like how you feel? Does time slow down? Like, what is it like when you're in that flow state? Editing at night, recording at night, and then you look back, you go, "Oh my gosh, it's 4 a.m." What's that? What's that like?
I know, right? Dude, it's just feel, man. Like the problem with I hate the adult thing. Because what the heck is an adult, bro? Like you tell me what an adult is. Like
Grown
I've
up
met
child.
seven, right? I've met 70-year-old dudes that are, young. Like why did the world tell us what an adult was? And you button up your shirt, you sit tight, right? Because that's But you get into some of these meetings with these rich guys or whatever, and they're just wearing sweats. Oh, wife cooking in the background, like I'll I'll tell you, give you an example of the flow state. Like, so if you were to look up SDG, I think it's SDG 12 or something, like responsible consumption or something, or sustainable cities. It's called like sustainable cities, something like that. All of our cities should be kind of
Sustainable
sustainable. And
cities and communities, number
yeah,
11.
yeah. And I was just thinking, and I was like, and if you read, I was just thinking in my mind, like the world needs what I'm trying to bring them, right? You're talking about, I'm trying to make an album where, you have Drake and Stevie Wonder talking about no poverty, a collaboration on the education goal with Shakira and Rihanna. I just did the inauguration with Billie Eilish and Garth Brooks. And I'm thinking about, like, I got this idea of how to bring us together. And I was just like, I hear the nations calling.
Mm.
I hear the just calling. I hear the cities cry out to me. They want a safe, resilient. And I'm just flowing, I'm just flowing. I'm just flowing, man.
Just
And
flowing.
you get into that state, right? Hear the nation
I love it.
calling, and that's how I started. I'm just giving you a preview of the actual album, but that's how I start making there's this, I'll tell you one more idea, right? Here's a flow state idea. We'll see if I can do it in 30 seconds. So I did the inauguration with Garth Brooks, and I was like, oh shoot, like this dude cares about life on land. You know what I'm saying? And I got to make the Life Online record. And I remember looking at the Michael Jackson video, and I looked at American history because everyone's talking about it and talking about slavery and this and that and all this stuff. I'm like, how do you bring everybody together? And I thought about, well, the Native Americans were kind of here before we were, before even African Americans were. And I was like, how could you do something that represents every facet of humanity in America in like the early 80s? And I was like, who you can hear and I was like, they call me Superman. I was like, yeah, I'm Superman because I'm saying they call me Superman. I got the super plan. I was like, save all Mother Nature for our fellow man. They call me Superman. I'm like, oh shit, and I was like getting the song. Yeah. Woo! And I was singing, I would show you the whole chorus and stuff, but that's just, just getting into the stage, just thinking and feeling and like, how do I bring the world together and let's save the motherland. Yeah, that's how I get into it. Man. Music for me is the flow state, bro.
Is that a play on like McConaughey's like, oh, when he's in the Wolf
Oh,
Wall Street?
snaps. I don't know, but I should check it out.
It's kind of interesting. Well, it's the one thing I will say is I think that's just a little bit more interesting than probably reading about the SDGs online or in a textbook. That's the thing is like, I'm saying, sarcasm there, right? And I'm thinking like, if you are actually going to inspire change, it's got to be through the arts. It's got to be something that
has to be.
You said it's a universal language. And I think over time it really has been. And so, how do you do something like that though? I mean, you're mentioning some big artists like Drake, some other artists, let's say Justin Bieber or Garth Brooks. I mean, are you finding that all of these artists have those similar passions and that they would actually take time to, write and talk about, these solutions?
Well, this is what I'll say. I have like 3 ways to answer that. One, time will tell, right? And this is what I'm attempting this year, and I hope that humanity answers the call in that sense. But here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Everyone has a passion or cares about something. And so for me, it's just plugging them in. Like, think of your top favorite TikTok influencers or Instagrammers. If you look at the SDGs, there's something that they care about, whether it's good health and well-being, whether it's they care about Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, or they care about life on land. I met this one guy who was like, well, I don't give a crap about those gays, right? He didn't care, but what he did care about was his farmland. He cared about his animals and his farm and tradition and this and that. And I thought to myself, that's how beautiful this album is. Because, Lady Gaga cares about gender equality. We reached out to Macklemore recently, maybe Dolly Parton. So if you can picture the gender equality record, let's pretend it's Lady Gaga, Macklemore and Dolly Parton on that record. But then you got the Life on Land record over here with Garth Brooks and throwing someone else in there maybe and myself collaborating on that record, right? So now what you've done indirectly is you brought that farmer that maybe thought this way about this group of people or this all plugged in, right, and you might have changed his thinking just a little bit,
right,
which is enough to change the world, right? There was a time period where I got on Instagram, and all of a sudden every girl on there was like, yoga, eating good today. Do you remember that? Or like they all of a sudden out of nowhere, like,
is that not still going on?
Right, it's still going on, like eating organic, vegan, like somehow that became popping. So let's just be honest, bro. There's no reason why I should have been at the inauguration. I have not sold 1 million copies. I am not Billie Eilish. I dang sure ain't Garth Brooks and these other people. Why am I there? I haven't but you know what? Sustainability is becoming popular, bro. Are you kidding me? It's getting to the point where like you have to have a stance on a straw. People might cancel you if you're like, yeah, man, I just drink whatever straw I want. You might get canceled by your own fans. Bro, it's becoming cool. It's like I say, making the battery cool again with the battery tour, right? It's already happened. This is why I'm here. So do I think that Justin Bieber will look at the goals and not see himself in something? No, I don't think that. I think everyone has a passion. And I think whether Justin Bieber cares about good life and well-being, or he cares about the homeless people on the street, or everyone needing to have access to water, there's something that he plugs into: McDonald's, Wendy's, Walmart, your favorite TikTok influencer, your mom, your dad, your cousin, and everything in between. And I'm here to get them and find what that is and plug them in. And that's
Right.
what we're doing.
The goal, I love it. Simply put, right? I mean, the goal is to transcend it. Yeah, I'm just curious. At that inauguration, like, did you have a chance to meet any of the politicians?
I met a lot, actually. I've met a lot of. I mean, honestly, I've
Any
met a
ones
lot
that
of
stood out?
politicians. Yeah. I mean,
Tough.
everything. Everybody's cool. This is what I feel like everybody's cool. I mean, I try not to take a political side. That's an interesting question, because people want me to take a side,
No,
and
don't.
I like to say, hey, I'm here to show what's possible. Like, I know people have come at me and have said this or that. I've never picked a side. I can just be, at the end of the day, is like I just did 800 concerts powered by renewable energy, so it's possible. And by the way, with enough money, right, or investment, we could build this out and make it bigger,
Mm.
and do arenas. You know, there's a billion people that, let's help these people. I'm just here to say, hey, this is what's possible, and I think leave it at that, because it can get really touchy in the sense of trying to bring people together in a day and age where everyone's so divisive. That's why it's like, hey, you know, I'm making music. I want to hear a track with Stevie Wonder and Drake. How about an album with Stevie Wonder, Drake, Justin Bieber, but they're talking about, right, one of the 17 goals. So that's what we're doing. Is then I already have the single. I've already collaborated with one of the biggest artists in the world for Goal 17, in which I aim to add Miley Cyrus and the Lumineers. So we're already in it. And so now, my life is a call to collaboration. Whether you're a company, you're a corporation, you're a school, because we're rolling out the program there. It's, hey, get plugged in. If you're listening, be a part of this change. Get plugged in, be an outlet, take an action with us, and empower, support this change.
I love it. It's a great message overall. And, I wish you, best of luck with, the change that you're able to have in this world. And, it's just incredible that you're able to, have the time to do all of that, be an artist while being.
I don't.
I mean, it's crazy, but it seems like they kind of go hand in hand. Like, the music attracts people, who attracts customers, and everything just kind of works. Where do you kind of see your organization in the future?
Yeah, I mean, man, that's a crazy question. I think that here's a really simple answer. I would see that, definitely America, but the world, would see the battery tour everywhere, right? And by that I mean, when they're in their classroom and they're about to plug their computer into the outlet, and they think of battery tour.
Hmm.
And if we've achieved that in 5 years, then we're successful, because that means we got a whole lot of outlets plugged in,
Mm.
and that means that we had a whole bunch of people, companies, corporations, nonprofits, etc., so forth, influencers, that took an action, and that's a whole lot of impact.
Definitely.
It's a whole lot of it.
Well, see, the intention, for to be the plug for all the outlets out there is a great trait. It's a great trait of inspiration. It's a great trait of long-term thinking, and just for overall humanity. It's very inspiring to hear. So the last question I'll ask you on this show today, AY, is what is your definition of a real leader?
Yeah. Oh man, that's hard, bro. What is my
You've been nailing the
definition
questions
of
all
a
day, though.
real leader? I know. I mean, to me, we've been saying it all day, though. I mean, a real leader, it is an outlet for change. I mean, that's what it is. It's a person, it's a individual, it's a company. I don't care if you're Fortune 500, if you make $10 a week. It's a nonprofit that, takes an action and makes the world around them a better place.
Mm.
and it's part of the change. That's a real leader. Whether they're leading the change or a part of it, we all can be real leaders.
Well said, well put, from the plug himself. For AY Young,
Yeah.
Kevin Edwards, asking to go out there, be an outlet for change. And always, folks, keep it real. Thanks, AY.
Yeah.